everyone. Happy Thursday. Here we are again. We have a topic that's it's a really good one. It actually is the way, I'd say it's the entire way that we build our business here at Forward Coaching. Because we can all talk to strangers, do cold outreaches, but we also know that takes a lot of conversations to net you what you need to net. So the beauty about how to find quality contacts, hot contacts through events, is that having that event, whether it's an educational event or a community connection event, it gives you a chance to meet them and to build a bit of a relationship. So we're going to spend a few minutes on it today. Please know that we're absolutely going to send you a copy of this recording. So that way, if you need to go back in the future and refer to it, you will have that information. Okay. So just for fun, as we get rolling here, maybe you might want to type in the chat box. Do you have some events planned for the year? So if so, what type of an event? Maybe what experience have you had in the past? What challenges around the topic of putting events together? So as we go along, feel free to type in any questions, any challenges, and I'm going to go in and out of that chat box and stop and make sure that we address them all. So my name is Debbie DeGroat. For I think most of you, when I've looked at the registration list, I see lots of familiar names. So welcome back. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Forward Coaching. And if I'm sad about one thing, in my 16 years of selling real estate here in LA and Orange County, I'm sad about the fact that no one taught me how to have events. I mean, I think they're much more popular now because we can do a lot of marketing online and social media. But back at that time, very few people did anything. I mean, we might have brought the Easter Bunny to the park, but we really weren't doing them at a high level. So it wasn't until 15 years ago when I built the coaching company and I hired a marketing person, and they started talking to me about things like the top of the funnel, right? You guys have heard this. We got to get people into the top of that funnel. So in other words, we got to get them into your world. We've got to get them to opt into you. So today we're going to talk about event ideas and themes. And I also want to talk about how to use joint venture relationships to help you fill the room or fill the Zoom room. And we're going to talk about how to follow up and convert and close the people that you meet. So getting in front of a group is a great way to increase your contacts and your conversations pretty painlessly. And what I love about educational events, it's a way to provide value as their wise advisor. Okay, so I want you guys to stop for just a second, and I want you to think about the marketing that came to you from us, which told you what is the topic today. So we had some marketing bullets. What were you going to learn? What would be the benefit of attending this webinar today? There was a link for you to register. There were reminders that were sent to you. And now here we are together in this educational event. Now, let's be honest. Would I love it if every single one of you just randomly called us or went to our website and signed up for coaching? Of course, that would be wonderful. Just like you would love it if everybody in your community called you and said, I want to buy or sell a house. It's not that easy though, right? And so I think of it as like pay it forward. When we provide value to our community, you guys are my community. When I provide value to you, When I show up as a wise advisor, gives you a chance to get to know me. Same thing for you. It will give them a chance to get to know you. And quite frankly, some may decide in that meeting that they don't choose to work with you or they don't want to continue to engage with you. Others will. And now we have an open door to build a greater relationship with them. The nice thing about events is that leads that are generated through events can be as high as 50% conversion. But I want to be clear, if you have, let's say for an example, an Easter Bunny photo in the park event in your community, and you invite your sphere, maybe you invite your geographic farm, those do not produce a lot of actual real estate leads, not instantly. So you may get one or two, you may talk to a neighbor that said they want to sell, but those fun community events, that's a lot more about building relationship, about being top of mind, about having a no pressure way to see your people in person and gently remind them you're in the business. When you do the educational events, though, people don't register for those if they're not interested. So we already have hope there. They're raising their hand. They're saying, I have some interest in this topic. Those leads, whether they actually show up at the event or not, because those that registered, still good leads because they had an interest, they took a moment to register, they just didn't make it to the event. There's still a good lead. That conversion can be as high as 50%, typically within 3 to 4 months. Okay. So I want to ask you guys, what are your limiting beliefs when you think about doing events in your community, whether they're in person or they're on Zoom? So feel free to type it in. What are you afraid of? What has stopped you from doing something like this in the past? I hear this one. I'm not a good speaker. You know what? They don't expect you to be, right? So they're not paying to attend this event. They're not expecting you to be a professional speaker. And if you're really terrified of this, because I know that, what is it that they say? One of the things people fear as much as death is public speaking. You can always have great joint venture partners that are your guests, and they do some of the heavy lifting. Maybe it works easier for you, instead of speaking the way I'm speaking today, that you have someone interview you and ask you questions that you can answer. And I promise you, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. Well, I don't know how to organize it. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And the beauty is, once you get your system, you always will run every event the same exact model. All you're doing is you're changing the topic of the event, right? So it becomes very easy. Oh my goodness, what if people don't come? Yeah, we all worry about that one. But it does not have to be a large group to be successful. Now, if you do a community group, like the photo in the park, a shredding event, something like that, you're going to have a higher attendance. That is much easier to get people to attend. So maybe you start your events doing something like that, because it'll give you a little bit of confidence. Because I notice Latasha says I'm lacking in confidence. So maybe you do something fun and in the community. A client of ours recently did a pet portrait event. And what they were able to do is, the Petco in their community was kind of right in the middle of the market where all their past clients in Sphere lived. So they made a deal with Petco to give them a space. They brought their photographer. They marketed this event to their entire sphere. Petco marketed the event to their database, even put a sign, a poster up at the store, letting people know that on this particular Saturday, they could come in for a free pet photo. So there was a free venue. There was a joint venture partner bringing additional people to that event, and it was easy, right? So the only cost was the cost of the photographer, which was even minimal because many of those people would buy extra photos from the photographer. So it was a good deal for the photographer too. So you're going to have higher attendance at those types of events, smaller attendance when it's educational. We have a client in Virginia, and she is just amazing at doing these in-person events. And she's been doing them now for a few years. And she recently did one that was like a seller event, a move-up event. Move up or downsize, how to do what you want to do without being homeless. She's made a little arrangement at a club where they'll let her use the room. They don't even charge her. And she promoted this to her whole database, her geo farm. She promoted it on social media. She had, I believe it was 5 people attend. Out of the 5, I think I'm remembering correctly, she's already within a couple of weeks listed 3, and the other 2 will list in the next few months. So you might say, well, wow, I feel like 5 would be a small audience. It is, but they're all quality, right? Because they came in with that seller mindset. I want to learn how to navigate this process. They were willing to register. They were willing to drive to the event. Pretty good indication that they're a quality lead. There was one event, though, that she did, and only one couple came. And she said, ugh, I was so stressed out. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to think, what a loser am I? Nobody showed up. And she said to them, gosh, I'm so sorry that the others did not attend. And they said, oh, are you kidding? We're glad. We get you all to ourselves because we want to sell our house and we have a million questions. She sat there with them. She listed their house. So don't worry, right? Now, what if you do it on Zoom? Okay. This is up to you, your personal preference. I know the free Zoom, you have the Brady Bunch house, right, where you can see everybody. I don't love that for webinars and educational events when you're doing it with the public, because, I don't know, what if they're walking around in their pajamas or worse, right? Or it's just distracting to you because you're not used to it. So if you did it with this type of a Zoom where you can't see everyone, the nice thing is, even if no one shows up, you can just go ahead and do it and record it. And you can say, gosh, you know what? There is so many people here today. I am not even going to open up the chat box. I want to get right into our great content, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to send every one of you a copy of this recording. So let's get this party started. You do your event, you record that, you use that, you post it, you send it out to your database. So bottom line, don't overthink it, right? Just do it. Now, the nice thing when you do joint venture events with others, then you're going to have instant credibility with their list. They're going to have instant credibility with yours. So I'll come over to the chat box in just a second, but here's what I want to make a special point of here. Now, let's say you're doing an event that has a little bit of a cost, and you find a joint venture partner who says, yeah, I'll help pay for the cost and I'll show up at that event and I'll meet your people. I'm going to use a lender for an example. Let's say that you get a lender partner and you're going to talk about, first time buyers, buying a home, navigating the market. And your lender partner is going to give you a little bit of money because maybe you're going to do a dinner or lunch or whatever. But you know what? That's not good enough. I want them to also be my proactive partner, inviting people to the event. So they're going to get my registration link because remember, I want to control the opt ins. I want to be able to market to everyone that joins that event. So I'm going to give them the registration link. I'm going to tell them the sequence and what they need to do to market that event. And I'm going to monitor that. I'm going to remind them because I expect them to help me fill the room. If they don't help me fill the room, they're not a great partner. Okay. Jan, is there better days or times to have these events? It depends on the type of event. And it depends on whether it's in person or a Zoom. The social ones, those you're going to just think about, oh, well, I'm going to bring the Easter Bunny on a Saturday, or I'm going to do the shredding event on a Saturday morning. So that's pretty common sense. But on the educational ones, if you're doing a Zoom event, I have had clients that have had success doing them at lunchtime because people might, eat their sandwich at their desk and watch the Zoom event. Monday nights are not great. Thursday, Friday nights are not super awesome because people are getting towards the end of the week. I've heard clients say they've had good luck with Tuesday evening. We used to do some in-person events on Tuesday evening. And what we would do is just get some sandwiches and invite them to come at 6:30 and go like 6:30 to 8 o'clock. So they could eat a sandwich and learn something. So you just kind of have to think about who's the group and how am I reaching out to them. Okay. So remember, even if you don't like to speak, you can still host successful events. You could interview your speaker, or your speaker could interview you. That just makes it a little easier so you don't have to carry the whole load of the script. So, what is the hard way to do an event? You invite people from your database, maybe you hit them once and you hope they show up. You struggle to get the right people to the event because maybe your database isn't organized or big enough, and you have no automated follow-up in place. So that's why we want to go into it with a plan. So secret number one, decide what kind of event do I want to do. Then secret number two, who am I going to invite? How am I going to get the right people to that event? So let's say, for an example, I wanted to have an event that appealed to investors. Well, I could have a joint venture partner who is a tax attorney talking about the tax benefits. What is accelerated depreciation? How do you save, tens of thousands by owning an investment property? And I could have that tax attorney invite their people. So that topic would not appeal to someone who is not an investor. So if I invite it to my whole database, I post it on social media, but because of the very specific topic, that's going to bring in only my ideal audience for that particular event. And then my joint venture partner should be someone who has access to my ideal audience. So then secret three, converting people to contacts. because remember, they're opting in, they're coming into your funnel. Now they are in your system, they're a contact. But how am I going to convert that contact to a client? That's in the follow up. So if you don't like to speak, then maybe you start with a community connection event, shredding event, photo in the park, a movie night, a wine and cheese event. Some people have found little, wine shops that will give them a bargain and do a wine tasting, a garage sale, all kinds of things. Think about what you're interested in. What would your clients be interested in? A client told me yesterday that they had just redone their house and they used a designer who had a really nice store. And in that design store, they had some furniture and decor. You guys have seen it. And they said, well, what if when you close your store at 5 o'clock, we do an event? We'll call it Wine and Design. We'll have just a little wine, cheese. I'll invite my database. You invite your marketing list. And our theme will be something around decorating. So maybe it's find out the common decorating mistakes that make your home look dated. Or what are the popular colors for 2026 that you should consider as you redecorate? And then the decorator even said, hey, if they buy something that night at my store, I'll give them 20% off. Do you know they had 60 people? And all that this agent had to do is just show up there with a tray of cheese and a few bottles of wine. And they had 60 people. And they loved it so much, they asked, can we come back next month? So it's kind of cool. Now, if you're okay speaking in front of a group, then do the root beer tasting. Absolutely, David. And you know what? A lot of people are having a lot of fun with the mocktails right now because that's such a thing. And they're teaching them how to, someone else I know did a mocktail making event, and they sent them home with recipes, and it was just really cool, right? So what is fun for you? And then you're going to show up and you're going to have a good time too. So what would be some education-based events? Remember, you're going to get this deck so you can rip off all these titles and marketing bullets. I want to make it easy for you. Is it better to rent or own a home? At this event, you're going to discover how to decide if, based on your life situation, it's better to rent or own, how home ownership can help you build financial security, insights and tips into the current market. How do you find the best home at the lowest price? And you see underneath, nothing will be sold. There is no cost or obligation. So we want a sexy title. We want 3 sexy bullet points. You don't need more than 3. There's magic in the power of 3. They need to understand that it is free and there is no cost or obligation. So community connection events are designed to build rapport and connection. Then you can extract and identify maybe a few potential clients. Easy to get them to attend, harder to get leads. The event is the premium that attracts them. So what do I mean by premium? The bribe, right? Have you guys ever gone to like a convention and you know how someone will have their booth and they'll say, if you want to enter to win this iPad, well, the premium for getting you over to their booth is the iPad. But see, you don't have to do that at a community event because it's a fun event. That's the premium. Education-based event, that's identifying who am I targeting in this event, and it is harder to get them to attend, but much easier to get clients from that, and you typically need a premium. I have a friend who is a financial planner, and has this thing he says. He's like, well, we did this great event at this restaurant and it was awesome. We did a dessert event and coffee, dessert, whatever. He goes, there were like 20 people that attended. He goes, half of them were plate lickers, but whatever. I'm like, a plate licker? What do you mean? He said, well, you see, you got to offer a premium to get them there. So the premium was the food. That was an opportunity. So some people just come for the free food, or maybe they're bored. So his point was you offer a premium to attract them, and you're going to get some plate lickers, but that's okay because you can still nurture them for the future. All right, so how do we get the right people there? That's the relationship capital. That's what we were talking about earlier. So who can you do a joint venture event with? Financial planners are awesome. Insurance agents are awesome because there's a lot of things people don't know about insurance. And, it's kind of a hot topic right now in a lot of places with fire insurance and that type of thing. So invite an insurance agent, maybe even a chiropractor, because you could do a little event that is about health and fitness, which would be more of a community type of an event. Mortgage lenders. Always when I did my first time home buyer event, 50% of that was conducted by my mortgage lender. But here's the thing. If you're going to have one of these people speaking at your event, you need to preview in advance whatever they're talking about, their deck, their script. You want to make sure you approve of it. You want to make sure you feel it fits well inside of your style and your event. And you want to make sure they stay in their time frame, right? I'm really just lose my mind if I bring someone in as a guest on my event and they don't stop talking and the event runs over. So I control that carefully, right? And don't forget, we talked about this earlier. They must help you drive attendance. And then don't forget either that you got to teach them, here's how I'm marketing my event. And then you got to teach them to do it as well. And then you got to hold them accountable to do it. So you create the registration page or the registration link. You create it. Now, you could create a separate one for them, which I think is what my team does, because then it's still our link that we control the opt-ins. But because I created it for them, it shows me if they registered anybody or not. Because my link, I can see all my people. Their link, I can see, gosh, no one's registered. I don't think they've promoted it yet. So monitor, make sure they follow the program. And if they speak, you control the content. Okay. So we other education-based events, you could talk about all kinds of things, investment properties, buying a vacation home, a VRBO rental, like lots and lots of topics, whatever is appropriate for your market. So then how do we convert these people to contacts and contacts to clients? Well, one of the first things you could do is after, and Jada does this, after the event is completed, she sends a thank you card. And remember, that's her smaller events. If it were a social community event, maybe you've taken a lot of photos, you post that on social media, you send a thank you to everyone, post a thank you for them attending. So it just depends. A little different if it's that in-person event. We're going to add every single person to our follow-up campaigns. What event did they attend? Did you speak to them there? Was there anything you promised to give them post-event? Maybe it was at my shredding event and someone came up to me and said, hey, I'm not ready yet, but in August, I'm going to get this inheritance and I want to buy a rental. Well, I'm going to come back, I'm going to put all those notes in, and I'm going to set my follow-up, probably not waiting until August, maybe in June, to check up with them and make sure that that's still on track and I know how to appropriately support them. See, if any one of you called my office today, I would be able to tell you when and how did we connect with you. Was it an in-person event? Was it a campaign? Were you a referral? And I actually have in my CRM every single thing you have registered for and or attended. And also if we've had any conversations at all, because we think that data is important. Now, then you're going to follow up with a phone call. Now, have it, and by the way, David, at Brivity is an outstanding CRM. My team does utilize it, but because we also have a major charging platform, we have to use HubSpot, so it's a little complicated here. But yeah, Brivity is a great CRM, and you certainly can put all your people in there, set up your auto plans. Then follow up with a phone call. So I know that many of you have had a call in the past from either Gary or Ron on my team. They're real guys, right here in the office. They don't sell anything. Like, they're not authorized to be salespeople. They are customer service. So they reach out, make sure that if we sent you the recording, did that recording arrive? And they ask the question, are you at a point in your career where coaching might be something you'd consider? If so, I'd be happy to schedule an opportunity for you to speak to Debbie. It's not high pressure, it's not rude, it's not abrasive, it's just a very gentle customer service follow-up call. And then they make repeated attempts to reach you. Remember, the people that attended events, they are very good leads. And an MIT study said that the average salesperson does not ever call more than half of their leads. And if they do call them, it's often 1, 2, or 3 attempts. But the magic happens between 6 to 12 attempts. So, Jennifer, it could be that, let's pretend something here for a minute. Let's pretend that, Jennifer or Jan were on a webinar and they typed in the chat box, hey, Debbie, I'm interested in coaching. Have one of your guys give me a call. Hey, I know you attended, so you're interested, and you even kind of raised your hand. And Gary calls you and you don't answer. And he leaves a message and you don't answer. And he sends a message and you don't answer. You know what? It's so easy to say, oh, gee, this person is ghosting us. They're not ghosting you. They're just busy, right? Or maybe they changed their mind, or maybe they're just not ready in that moment. So make repeated attempts and then add them to your marketing list. Now, some of you here have been following us for a very long time. You have not yet joined coaching. But guess what? We just invite you to our future events, right? We just keep inviting you because sometimes you join. I had someone call me yesterday and they said, I've been following your webinars for 6 or 7 years. I'm finally ready. You may have that. You may have people say, hey, I've been going to your events for years. I'm finally ready to sell my home. Guess what? Do we wish they would have sold today? Yeah. But do we need them 5 years from now? Yes. And that's why we want to build that funnel, build that database, and then just keep inviting to future events. So Guys, I want to do something special for you, but I'm going to have to ask a favor that you give me a couple of extra days because Jessica on my team, who runs all of this for me, she is on a short vacation, and so I don't know how to do it, but she does. So what we have that we have prepared for a company recently is we have some decks which give you the precise instructions on if you're doing an in-person event, how do you market it, when do you market it, what do you send, how do you follow up. So it's the technical back end, right? It's the sequencing for an in-person event or for a virtual event. So if you give us a minute, Van, I know you're listening and you work closely with Jessica. Let's make sure that next week we send all of our attendees those slide decks, and my daughter Taylor has those, Van. So we'll get those to you. So you've got the front end concept here, but then we're going to send you, the step by step. Because for an example, if you're doing an in-person community event, you're not going to market that much more than about 30 days out. And most of your registrations won't come until the final week or two. If you're doing a Zoom event, like I think for you guys, we start marketing it about Wednesday or Thursday, the week before, inviting you to the next webinar. It's not very many days because you'll just forget. So that could be a mistake that you make. So we'll get that for you as well. Just remember, it's going to take a couple days till Jessica gets back. And I hope this will encourage you. Just go do it, right? Just go try it. Just think of Jada. She had only one couple show up and they sat right there and listed their house. Doesn't get much better than that. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining our event today and have an awesome weekend. We'll talk to you soon. And this recording will come to you tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye, guys.